Israel says longtime Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah was killed in an airstrike in Beirut. Hezbollah is now confirming that Nasrallah was killed. The Israeli military said Nasrallah was at Hezbollah's underground headquarters, one of several sites targeted in a series of massive explosions that the Lebanese health ministry says killed at least 6 and injured more than 90 others. The killing of Nasrallah not only strikes a blow to terrorist group's leadership, but could also trigger a wider war with Hezbollah's main backer, Iran. Imtiaz Tayyab has the latest from Beirut.
In a massive escalation, Israeli fighter jets dropped a series of bombs on Beirut's southern suburbs, triggering deafening explosions and sending huge plumes of crimson smoke in the skies above. On the ground, near total devastation, at least 4 buildings pulverized. Israel's military says it killed Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, and this morning the group confirmed he was dead. Syed Hassan Nasrallah was a singular figure within the political and paramilitary force. Known for his fiery speeches, like this one we attended in August. For 32 years, he led Hezbollah, which means Party of God, and is considered a terrorist organization by the US and many other countries. And through support from Iran, he expanded it not only into a political force, Hezbollah, which means Party of God, and which is considered a terrorist organization by the US and many other countries. Through support from Iran, he expanded it not only into a political force, but also one of the most powerful and heavily armed standing armies in the region. Nasrallah's death would be a potentially catastrophic blow for the group. Several of Hezbollah's military commanders have been assassinated in other Israeli strikes since July. And thousands of its members were injured in booby-trapped pager and walkie-talkie explosions earlier this month, leaving it badly diminished and potentially leaderless. The stunning developments follow Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to the UN General Assembly, where he received a mix of boos and applause.
And will continue degrading Hezbollah until all our objectives are met.
Let's talk about Hezbollah. It's the Lebanese group that's back in the headlines.
There's been an intense exchange of rocket fire across the Israel-Lebanon border.
Hezbollah fires across the border every day.
Israel is targeting what it says are Hezbollah cells.
Some countries classify Hezbollah as a terror group, but it's also deeply embedded in Lebanese politics and society.
More powerful than the state, and more armed than the Lebanese army itself.
Hezbollah is a militant movement. It defines itself as a resistance and pushing back against US and Israeli policies.
It's also very close to Iran.
They take orders from Iran.
So how did Hezbollah come onto the scene? What exactly is its connection to Iran? And how powerful is the group today? The name Hezbollah means Party of God. Now that might make it sound like it's a religious group, but it's actually a lot of things. It is a religious movement, and its members are mainly from the Shia branch of Islam. But not all Shia Muslims in Lebanon support Hezbollah. It's also a political party with members in Lebanon's parliament and ministers in the cabinet. And it's an armed group. They say they've got 100,000 fighters, but it's hard to know for sure, and some experts suggest it's lower, likely between 20 and 50,000.
This is a secretive organization, even within, party members. Somebody working in a bank, a school, could be a Hezbollah fighter, and you don't know that. This is one of the strengths of Hezbollah. They tend not to show all their cards, if you like. This is a group that does not have known military bases.
Hassan Nasrallah is the Shia cleric who's led Hezbollah for more than 30 years. He's rarely seen in person. But in areas where support for Hezbollah is strong, like in the southern suburbs of the capital Beirut and in the south of Lebanon, his image is everywhere.
And you also see posters of Iranian leaders because the group does not hide its links with Iran.
موازنة حزب الله ومعاشاته ومصاريفه وأكله وشربه وسلاحه وصواريخه من الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران.
Some experts even characterize Hezbollah as essentially part of Iran's armed forces, a branch called the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC.
They are part of Iran's regional military structure. They have Lebanese IDs, but their loyalty and their job and their mission is to serve the interests of the IRGC's Quds Force, full stop.
The Quds Force is the IRGC branch that's mostly focused on foreign operations. So how did Hezbollah come about? Well, there are three main factors that help explain its rise. The first is the Shia factor. Lebanon has always been very divided along religious and sectarian lines. Along with the Shia, the other main groups are Sunni Muslims and Christians. Lebanon's political system assigns them all key positions. It's designed so that they share power, but in practice, it tends to exacerbate divisions. And the Shia have often felt that they get the worst deal and are neglected by the government in Beirut.
The Shia community has long felt marginalized on the fringes of society.
In the 1970s, a political and armed movement fighting for Shia rights had cropped up. Other groups were vying for power too, including the PLO, a Palestinian group that had established itself in southern Lebanon. By 1975, they all turned on each other and a civil war broke out.
The Lebanese are fighting among themselves, Muslims against Christians and left against right.
The war lasted until 1990, and it was in the chaos of all the fighting that Hezbollah emerged. And this brings us to our second factor, Iran and the 1979 revolution. Iran's monarchy was overthrown and replaced by an Islamic republic led by Shia cleric Ruhollah Khomeini. The revolution established Iran as the dominant Shia power in the region.
Khomeini saw himself and saw the revolution as something that goes beyond Iran. He saw this as more of a pan-Islamic revolution that goes even beyond the Shia community.
So Iran wanted to spread its ideology and influence, and everything going on in Lebanon provided an opportunity for that, especially after 1982, when Israel invaded Lebanon. And this is the third factor that explains Hezbollah's rise. Now, Israel said it was going after the PLO. Remember, that's the Palestinian group that was based in southern Lebanon, and it had been attacking Israel from there.
Tanks roll into southern Lebanon. The Israelis said they had one goal: to root out once and for all Palestinian bases across the border from their northern settlements.
Israeli forces reached all the way to Beirut. Later, they withdrew to southern Lebanon and occupied an area there right up until 2000.
The Israelis, they didn't just kick the Palestinians out and leave. They came, they stayed, they occupied.
And here's where our three factors all converge in 1982. A group of Shia in Lebanon, who were already aligned with Iran's revolutionary ideology, had come together to fight the Israeli forces. Iran capitalized on that, providing training, funding, and weapons, and that group adopted a name, Hezbollah.
Iran invested in an organic reality. You had Lebanese Shias who suffered decades of marginalization from the Lebanese state, and also were suffering from Israeli occupation and were radicalized by the events of 1982. And hence comes a movement to build on all of that.
From the beginning, Hezbollah mainly defined itself as a resistance force against the Israeli occupation. In 1985, they stated that the obliteration of Israel from existence was one of their ultimate aims. They also said they wanted to kick out US and French troops who were in Lebanon as part of peacekeeping missions. Their tactics included assassinations, hostage-taking, suicide attacks, and some high-profile bombings, like one on the US Embassy in Beirut that killed 63 people. Then, in the early 1990s, there was a shift for Hezbollah. Lebanon's civil war had ended, and the group started to evolve from this shadowy militia into a major power broker. Hezbollah set up a political party. It won its first seats in parliament in 1992 and eventually became a leading voice for Lebanon's Shia community.
In comes this party, this powerful and strong party, who tells them that, we will protect you from the others, and we will ensure that you have a say in government, that you have a say in the decision-making process in this country.
Since 2005, Hezbollah has had cabinet ministers running various government departments. It's also been described as a state within a state, providing all sorts of social services in the areas they control, things like health, education, and youth programs.
They even give these cards to some of their members to get groceries at a discount.
But the main thing that sets Hezbollah apart from other Lebanese political factions is that it has weapons, a lot of them. At the end of the civil war, Hezbollah kept its weapons. It said it needed them to fight Israel. And it did keep fighting. First, they were focused on pushing Israel out of southern Lebanon and got a lot of credit when Israel finally withdrew in 2000. Since then, fighting has repeatedly flared up, including a war in 2006, which lasted 34 days. A big part of Hezbollah's appeal in Lebanon is based on this perception that it is the most effective force to stand up to Israel. But having such a strong, armed group separate from the government is also seen as problematic.
Its opponents in Lebanon believe that those arms are being used for Hezbollah to advance its political interests in the country.
There are many who view it as a problematic player on the Lebanese scene. I would say a good half of the country would see it as such.
Another way of looking at it is that Hezbollah is both a cause and a symptom of even deeper problems in Lebanon. A country with a broken, sectarian political system that allows corruption to thrive and has kept the economy in the gutter. 80% of people now live in poverty.
Every time you try to deal with the corrupt political elite, you are always hit by Hezbollah's arms that it is protecting them. Take the Beirut port explosion.
It was a dark day in Lebanon's history. August 4, 2020. 2 years on, there's still been no accountability for one of the biggest non-nuclear blasts in history. Not one top official has been held to account.
Hezbollah is also accused of standing in the way of the investigation into the explosion at the Beirut port.
At one point, this even spilled over into deadly fighting on the streets of Beirut, when Hezbollah supporters protested against the lead judge investigating the explosion. But Hezbollah's activities and influence aren't just confined to Lebanon. It's the most powerful group in what's known as Iran's axis of resistance. This is a network of groups that Iran supports to spread its influence and interests in the region. It includes militias in Iraq and Syria, Hamas in Gaza, and the Houthis in Yemen.
But they're all part of the Iranian regional structure, military structure. This is how Iran works. Iran fights America and fights Israel via proxies and partners.
This helps to explain why Hezbollah took part in the Syrian war, for example. Syria's president, Bashar al-Assad, is an ally of Iran, and Hezbollah fought as part of an Iranian alliance to keep him in power. That move alienated some of Hezbollah's supporters who felt it wasn't the group's job to get involved. But the war also gave Hezbollah a reason to recruit, and its fighters got combat experience.
Hezbollah has also grown its special forces capabilities, given its role in the conflict in Syria.
So today, you're looking at a group that's really strong militarily. It has a lot of weapons, a grip on Lebanon, and Iran behind it. Right now, it's in the spotlight because of the war in Gaza, which has reignited the fight between Hezbollah and Israel. Hezbollah has fired rockets into Israel, killing soldiers and civilians. It says it won't stop until Israel ends its war on Gaza. And Israel's hit back, firing into Lebanon, killing civilians along with Hezbollah fighters and at least 2 senior commanders. Tens of thousands of people living on either side of the border have had to leave their homes. Many people are questioning whether this could all turn into a full-blown war and a wider regional conflict. It's always a possibility. But at the same time, Israel and Hezbollah both know that the other one has the capacity to do huge damage, and that might be encouraging them to hold back.
So both sides are still treading carefully. Hezbollah does not want a full-blown war, and it can hurt Israel. It can hit anywhere in Israel. It can fire thousands of rockets a day. But Israel, too, can hurt Hezbollah.
If you're interested in news and current affairs, check out the full playlist of Start Here episodes.